It's Woodis here. I've been thinking about just handing over my channel to someone. Not that I'm not gonna be involved with my channel. I'm talking about my main channel. Not that I'm gonna be involved. Not that I won't be involved in the affairs of my channel. It's just that I want someone to be the front man, essentially, to front my channel, and just take it in a new direction that I've been meaning to take it anyway. It's just that I recognize that I can't be the one to do so. It wouldn't be beneficial for me to front my channel and take it in this particular direction that I want to take it. Because some people are more like marketable than others. And I recognize that. And I feel like I've pushed the boulder up the slope as far as I possibly can. It's someone else's turn now to take over where I kind of left off. That's the kind of attitude that I'm having towards this channel of mine. I got it to where it's at right now. I've got it in the eyes of a few well, in terms of like subscriptions, and like in terms of like the feed, like the feed. I've got the channel in the eyes of close to 2,000 people. No, not quite 2,000, but yeah. I'm not going to insist on getting to 2,000 before I hand it over. I'm okay with them retiring. I use that word lightly. Essentially, just taking the back seat on my own channel, and rather than having it focus on me, I'm gonna try to have the channel focus on the viewer and the consumer. Rather than it being my channel and people coming to view me, which I'm impressed. I'm impressed that I was able to do that to some extent. I'm impressed that I was able to get people to view my channel for me. I'm impressed with that. Yeah, it won't be that anymore. People will be viewing the channel because they'll be taking something away for themselves, and not just being in awe of what I can do on the guitar, or what my cartoons, do, or like how cool my cartoons are, or whatever. So yeah, I want people to go on the channel and take something from it. I want I want my channel to cater for the viewer, and as opposed to cater for me. And yeah, I have plans. I have plans for my channel. I want to introduce people in my channel. I realized that my channel is just my face the whole time. So yeah, I want to introduce people onto my channel. And yeah, I want to start making pedals and stuff. Yeah, I've been wrestling with this desire, because it seems so far out my league, that I just kept pushing it aside, telling myself that I don't have an electric engineering background. I don't have an electronic engineering background. You can't possibly attempt to do this. You're not very smart. When it comes to this kind of stuff, you're not very inclined with this kind of stuff. So I was letting myself believe those thoughts, and just letting myself down, or like convincing myself that I shouldn't dare to try to bring this to life. But then the desire always just perked up. It always just emerged again, and it's 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 at its it's at its strongest right now. It's powerful upon me right now, you know, and I'm 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 determined to do it. Also, I notice just how joyful I get whenever I take my pedals apart. I've done that to a few of my pedals actually, and yeah, I just get super joyful. I took apart like the most expensive pedals that I ever owned. And I was happy with that. There was a point when I thought that I would never dare to do that. Now I'm at a point where I can just take apart like a $400 pedal and just customize it, and well, I've talked about the exterior, and then put it back put it back together again after I'm done, customizing the exterior. Though, don't get me wrong, the interior could very well get damaged trying to do that, but yeah, just I'll just take my pedals apart and put them back together again, then just look at the components and the insides of them, and I just noticed how joyful I was whenever I was doing that. Because and I noticed this when, okay, so essentially the the idea of just working some assembly job at some factory never appealed to me. In fact, it never appeals to anyone. No one sits and you know dreams of putting stuff together at some random factory, right? Same goes for me. Like, uh, that just never appealed to me. But as soon as you know pedals were involved, or something I was passionate about was the subject of the matter, I suddenly got excited, and I noticed that right out the gate. I noticed that right out the gate that, yo, I'd actually be down to work some assembly job, and bear in mind, like, jobs like that are often like looked down upon. No one aspires to work some assembly factory job, you know but then as soon as my pedals and stuff were involved, I was like, yo, I'd actually, I wouldn't, because I'm one of those dudes, one of those people really in my generation that are afraid of a job. You know what I mean? A j asterisk b, the censored o. you know I'm 22. I don't have any work experience, you know because, yeah, no, I don't like the idea of that. So working some random ass job isn't ideal for a person like me, you know. But when you bring pedals into the mix, I I I suddenly got inspired. I suddenly loved the idea of working a job first and foremost. I suddenly liked the idea of working a job. Secondly, you know, I suddenly liked the idea of working a job that, produced my favorite things. You know, I saw that firsthand. I saw just how much of a positive, impact that involving your favorite things can do when considering a career, you know. And I've always heard this. I've always heard this. I've always heard people say, like, do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life, But I heard that, right, but then I really needed to feel it. I needed to feel it, because at times working with like stuff that you're passionate about can drain the passion out of you. That's why a lot of people don't like to mix fun with work. But in this particular case, it just made sense. It just made sense, and it 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 felt inspiring. The thought of just working with pedals. It felt inspiring. It felt it felt like what um people ought to feel whenever they wake up and go to work. It felt like what people should feel. It felt like the thought of like working with pedals. It felt like sunshines and roses, and it felt like rainbows and sunshines and puppies and whatnot. The thought of it. So yeah, there's very little reason for me to not chase this. I've got some ideas, and they're doable. They're extremely doable. In fact, they're rather simple. It's just that for a person without the necessary know-how, they're a bit intimidating. But then I recognize that they're simple, even for like the most basic, electronic engineer, or like the most basic person with some level of you know electric engineering understanding. And I believe a lot of these ideas that I um have appeal. I believe a lot of these ideas have appeal for, or rather, they could potentially appeal to an audience. You know, I picture an audience loving a lot of these ideas that I have for these pedals. You know, I'm literally just holding my finger against the camera because I have nothing to show you. I don't want to edit this. I don't care to edit it because no one is gonna watch it. So I can keep all the stutters and stuff and the umming and ahhing it. You know. But yeah, I'm really excited. I would love to have a mentor. I'd love to have someone who can metaphorically put me under their wing and give me the necessary guidance. I'm not looking for someone to hand me a textbook and have me come into class every other day, like every Monday, every Wednesday, like a college does or like a university does. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone to teach me this particular skill. I'm not looking to understand electronic engineering or electric engineering as a whole. I'm looking to know how to do this one thing. You don't necessarily have to go to plumbing school to I don't know, make sure that your pipe doesn't leak. I don't know about that analogy. I don't know about it. I don't know, but then you get what I'm trying to say. I essentially need someone who's just gonna sit down with me and just supervise me, and you know I might not encounter that because I've tried searching for it and I'm just not finding it. So I shouldn't let that you know be the reason why I fail in this endeavor. you know yeah. I just bought the microcontroller necessary for the pedals that I want to make. I just bought a single microcontroller because right now that's what I can afford. I don't have cables. I don't have everything else really. I'm looking to take apart one of the pedals that I have and then just reuse the components in there in order to bring this pedal to life. Though I imagine that's gonna be harder than just getting fresh components, because these are like already soldered and stuff. So I know I'm gonna have to go through the trouble of like, what's it called, like desoldering, unsoldering, and then resoldering it, you know, which is like skipping level one. Level one is just starting with components that are completely fresh, you know. So I'm already on level two, you know, and I haven't even started the game. I'm on level two and I haven't even started the game, you know. That's why it would be crucial for me to just have someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to like electronics and stuff, to just be there whenever I make my first couple of pedals, maybe, and then from there I can handle it. Yeah, like I said, my pedals aren't too complicated or anything like that. They're rather simple. They're like novel pedals. Yeah, I feel, and I feel like that's a side of the pedal market that is not tapped into often, because everyone wants to release an overdrive pedal. Everyone wants to release the best distortion pedal. Everyone wants to release a fuzz, you know. Everyone's got to have three different types of distortions in their array of pedals. I'm gonna listen. My pedal company, and I'm speaking it into life. My pedal company is gonna pride itself on the fact that it doesn't have any overdrive pedals in its array of in its what's the word that I'm looking for, in its line of pedals. We won't have any overdrives. We won't have any. They're like novel pedals, you know, like gimmicky pedals, you know. Like I said, that's the side of the thingamajig that's not tapped into. So yeah. So basically, I'm looking to target the people who pretty much have their boards, you know, ready to go. They maybe just in need of like a silly pedal, because they've got everything covered. They've got, you know, the overdrive, whatever, delay, wah, you know, modulation. They've got everything covered. Perhaps they're looking for like another pedal to fill like a slot on their board or something, and perhaps they're not looking to fill that slot by having a repeat effect on the board. You know, you get what I'm trying to say. Like maybe they're trying to avoid having, you know, two distortions or two modulation pedals on their board. Therefore they'd want to have some kind of gimmicky pedal or something, you know. Yeah, well, essentially I'd like to target those people. And another thing I need to think about is the price. Well, then I'll run a poll on that. I'll be like, yo, what's a reasonable price? Because I'm looking to be reasonable. I'm looking to be like the people's champion. I'm not looking to be some big bad bully, some boutique bully. You know, I'm looking to be, you know, for the people. You know. Also, I want to be cheap, so that people can get like a bunch of my pedals. You know, and give people incentive to get multiple pedals of mine. You know, because with this one, I'll give you an example with the pedal that's on my board. With this one $400 pedal, I am certainly not getting another pedal from that company. You know, I am content with this one because I paid a lot of money for it, and yeah, I'm just not spending another cent there. But then when your pedal is like cheap, that gives the consumer that makes the consumer go, well, it was cheap, so I guess I could get like another one. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just going on and on here, but yeah, that's what I have in mind right now. Go ahead and have a sip of my tea now. But yeah, wish me luck, universe. God and I really want the same thing, you know. We want success in my life, you know. So I just need to tap in with him, and yeah, he'll come through for me. Yeah, I feel like that's a good place to end the video. Yeah.